Hey Godless, it took me 43 days to finish Avowed, but it was awesome. But if you're watching this video, you're probably not surprised because I've made quite a few videos about Avowed, and I mean the general impression in those videos is of course that I loved it. I loved the game. I wish I could play it again, but you know, the nature of content and making content requires I gotta move on to the next thing. So those of you who are impatient like me, let's just get into it. Why was it awesome? Basically, right, the biggest thing for this, and I think a lot of people have said it, combat was fast-paced, easy to understand and execute. No matter your keyboard dexterity, you gotta do awesome things in the game. This makes me think of a totally different genre, which is like Age of Empires 4, right? Where I played it recently with a friend of mine, and the guy was like, "Oh, Green, you need to go here. Oh, Green, you need to go there." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so confused." And just made me realize I cannot play RTS games with anybody anymore. And as you get older, things get slow, your memory gets bad. A lot of old gamers will relate to the fact that you play a game and you take a break for 3 months, you come back with like, where was I at this moment? What was I doing? How do I do this? I think this has happened to me on The Witcher 3 twice. I'm about to run the games multiple times. But coming back to combat, so I played as an archer, as you guys know. I didn't do any melee combat after the first hour, and I got my first bow. So I just shot things, right? So that was amazing. That being said, and I'll talk about this in sort of the negative section, is this is all I did. There was a handful of bows. There was not as many bows as there were ones, but it was fun, right? Shooting arrows at people's head were awesome. Shooting different kinds of arrows were great. In different arrows in terms of the game. There's only one kind of arrow. You do have unlimited ammunition in the game. That being said, is right. That's a lot of things people agree about being a wizard. Avowed has multiple classes. You can be like a mix of an archer and a mix of a mage, an archer, and a warrior together. Just a pure ranger class as well. You go up to level 30, so you do have an option to sort of unlock quite a few different things. So combat was the best part of the game for me. There were loads of other good parts as well. Sound was great. It didn't have any memorable music. Like, I downloaded the soundtrack of that Dark Knight game. I can't remember it with Max. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? But I listen to that all the time. That's memorable music for me. The Skyrim soundtrack, the Dawn of War 2 soundtrack. The music was good in the game. When you fought, and the music quickened, it was great. That being said, there wasn't anything memorable, but it wasn't bad or anything. It just wasn't memorable. The game looked great. I remember when I ran it the very first time on February 14th, Valentine's Day, I was like, wow, pinks and purples and light greens and this colors. It's just very, very good, and especially if your eyesight is as bad as mine. Bright colors are kind of good. The world is just colorful and good to look at, and again, if you're running it on max detail, you will really appreciate it. That being said, and again, I'll talk about this in the negative section, is I did have crashes. This is more due to my hardware fault than anything else. The game was also not too long. Doing every single side quest, I clocked in under 40 hours. That being said, I can't believe I keep saying that. I didn't do the treasure hunts, all of them, and I also didn't do the finding the idols, which you have one idol for each zone, so like 4 idols. So there were bad things, as I alluded to, and I've talked about this in other videos, so I won't go this in too many details. But basically, yeah, as an archer, you have a handful of bows. There's like 4 legendary bows, or 3 or 4, and that's it. It kind of feels boring. I wish there were different kinds of arrows. And I talked about this in another video as well, which my DLC video, where I kind of hoped like there'd be like a ice arrow and a platinum arrow and a bone skull arrow, something like that. That would have been nice, because like the wizard, they have like multiple wands and different grimoires and stuff. You have different spears and melee weapons, and maybe people just didn't want to shoot arrows, so that was something they didn't think about. So that kind of sucked. I kind of wish the game was a little bit longer. And like I said, under 40 hours, I wanted more. I wanted another region or another 2 regions. That would have been wonderful. Another maybe 20 hours or so. It doesn't have to be like 80 hours like Skyrim. I know people have talked about it in a sense to sort of say, people don't like to play 80-hour games. And well, that's kind of true. Like, I'm saying I want a longer game. I don't know if I can actually do it or not. The other thing as well is, like I did mention, the crashes. I've had weird issues with this computer. I just ordered another computer like a few days ago, 2 days ago. So the crashes were most likely due to my hardware problems, but I did know quite a few people had crashing issues. That being said, the first 20 hours or so, I had no issues with the game. I don't know what's been causing it or whatever. but overall it still ran fine. It was flawless. There was no slowing down of it. The other thing I would say is this game is kind of only replayable twice unless you're playing by class, but like in terms of endings, there are only 2 endings. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I did one ending, so if I wanted to play the game, I could do the other ending, but I wouldn't want to do the other ending, so I wish this game had more replayability. But anyway, I did a DLC video. I was going to do an Avowed 2 video, but I'm not going to do that because it's been 2 months since the game's been released. But still amazing work from Obsidian. I can't wait for the Outer Worlds 2 to come out. I most likely will play that when it comes out. I'm going to be playing 3 games this year. That being said, I saw it's supposed to come out in June, maybe, or I could be wrong about that. I could be thinking about something else, but yeah. So the Outer Worlds 2 could be the 3rd game I cover this year. I was going to play 2. It's going to be 3 games this year. Hope you loved me covering Avowed content. I love the game. I'm hopefully, well, I know I'll never get back to it again just because so many games come out every year. But if you're watching this and you're on the fence and this is a 2026 or 2027 and you're like, okay, is this time to get it? Yeah, it was amazing in 2025. Whenever you're going to play this, it's still going to be amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in, and then I will see you guys next time. Bye.